Hello, and welcome to our podcast, Where the Dark Corners Are. Hello. I am Vina, and I am your Dark Travels hostess. Tonight, we have
In 1995,
Not that one.
ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another episode of Serial Killers. Serial Killers. Serial Killers. Serial Killers. With Sierra. Yeah.
I keep forgetting that your song goes on for a long time.
It does, and it's amazing.
I'm waiting for it to die out, and it's not dying out.
I can't wait till we start actually recording the podcast, because they're just going to see me jamming out to my own theme.
Right?
It's so catchy.
So tonight, Sierra is joining me, to close out our paranormal travels to Alaska.
Yes.
And Alaska was kind of an obvious choice because, as we've explained to our listeners, we're actually headed to Alaska on a Disney cruise.
Yes.
Come September. So, and of course, I've said this before, so I'll say this again. When you start researching one topic, all these other examples or scenarios similar to your research topic starts popping up. So I'm suddenly getting inundated with not only travel tips on cruise ships, but who has died on cruise ships, murder on cruise ships.
Perfect.
So either way, tonight we're here to discuss
Mr. Robert Hanson, the butcher baker.
Candlestick maker?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mr. Robert Hanson was born in Esterville, Iowa on February 15th, 1939. He was the eldest of two children to an American mother, Edna Margaret Hanson, and a Danish father, local baker Christian Chris Hanson. The family moved to Richmond, California in 1942, but returned to Iowa in 1949 and settled in Pocahontas. In his youth, Hanson was painfully shy, had a stutter, and suffered severe acne that left him permanently scarred. Throughout childhood and adolescence, he was described as a quiet loner who had a difficult relationship with his domineering father. He started to practice both hunting and archery, often finding refuge in these pastimes.
Haunting or hunting?
Hunting.
Okay. And archery. So deadly skills.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
But, I mean, granted, he's in Iowa.
Okay.
Is there anything else to do in Iowa?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever been to Iowa.
I haven't either, but...
Okay.
In 1957, he enlisted in the United States Army Reserve and served for 1 year before being discharged.
Wow, 1 year. Is that even a thing?
I guess.
If it's the reserves, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think with the reserve, I think you could do a minimum of 1 year.
Okay.
Maybe.
1957 though, what are we in, the Korean conflict, Korean War? About that time?
Yes.
Potentially.
I sound so confident.
Right.
He later worked as an assistant drill instructor at a police academy in Pocahontas. There, he began a relationship with a younger woman, whom he married in the summer of 1960. On December 7th, 1960, Hanson was arrested for burning down a Pocahontas County school bus garage as revenge for his unpopularity in high school.
Oh, much.
Because
much?
that's what you do.
Right.
You were bullied in high school, so you go burn down the bus garage.
When you're married and trying to establish a life and a family.
Yeah, why not? He served 20 months of a 3-year prison sentence in a Namosa State Penitentiary. Not even a full year.
No, 20 months is almost...
Oh, yeah, no, almost 2. My bad.
Yeah, it's...
Math.
Right.
But still.
New math, apparently.
I can't. I'm dyslexic with numbers.
I would say 2/3, probably close to 2/3.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. 3 years feels like
No.
a light sentence for
Destruction of property.
well, not only like destruction of property, but like property that school children use.
Right, that's necessary.
Right?
But it's odd that he waited not only that long,
Correct.
and it's almost as if maybe something triggered.
Yeah, I don't know. During his incarceration, he was diagnosed with manic depression and had periodic schizophrenic episodes. The psychiatrist who made the diagnosis noted that Hanson had an infantile personality who was obsessed with getting back at people he felt had wronged him. Hanson's wife filed for divorce while he was incarcerated.
As any woman should, so
Hell
yes.
yeah, run. Because, I mean, if this dude's fucking wild enough to burn down school buses,
Right.
like, I'm out. I have a high tolerance, but not for that.
She's like, that's where I draw the line. Burning school buses.
Burn in the school bus. But you can go practice hunting and archery all you want. That's fine. Over the next few years, Hanson was jailed several times for petty theft. In 1967, he then moved to Anchorage, Alaska with his second wife, whom he had married in 1963 and with whom he had had 2 children.
Here's what I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
First wife runs, the second he does one thing wrong.
Yeah.
Second wife stays and produces children with him.
Correct. 2 of them.
As he's in and out of jail.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're obviously talking about 2 very different women here.
Woo! In Anchorage, he was well liked by his neighbors and set several local hunting records. Because why
Of
not?
course he did.
In December of 1971, Hanson was arrested twice. First for abducting and attempting to rape an unidentified housewife, and then for raping an unidentified prostitute. He pled no contest to assault with a deadly weapon in the former offense, and the rape charge involving the prostitute was dropped as part of a plea bargain.
Of course it was. So in between his jail times, he manages to marry, manages to reproduce, then moves everyone to Alaska.
Yep.
Where he is basically upgrading
Correct.
his
From like fire, arson, petty theft,
to
rape,
rape.
and kidnapping.
Right.
Because, that's what you do.
That's a natural progress of, human nature and thought.
And I think
So logical.
I think like with certain charges, you shouldn't be allowed to plea.
I mean, even if someone is a lady of that type of profession,
Correct.
if you assault her,
Correct.
you
doesn't
should
deserve
honor that.
Correct.
You should honor the charge.
Right. Just because she's in a profession, which it is a profession.
Correct. And if there wasn't any demand, there wouldn't be a need for the profession.
Correct.
Just pointing out facts.
Correct. And, but like even so, she deserves all the same rights and protections as the housewife.
Yes.
Yeah, it didn't. Hanson was sentenced to 5 years in prison. After only serving 6 months of his sentence,
Oh my God.
he was placed on a work release program and released to a halfway house.
And the wife, is she still with him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So this dude gets 3 years, serves, a good chunk of it for burning buses. Then he gets 5 years for assault with a deadly weapon and only serves 6 months.
Right. So there's logic behind this.
What the fuck? No, Alaska, you're doing it wrong. In 1976, Hanson pled guilty to larceny after he was caught stealing a chainsaw from an Anchorage Fred Meyer store. He was then sentenced to 5 years in prison and was required to receive psychiatric treatment for bipolar disorder. The Alaska Supreme Court reduced his sentence and he was released with time served.
So Alaska's not.
Alaska, apparently, you can just do whatever you want.
Right.
And go serve a couple months and get out.
Right. They'll home and feed you and you'll be on your way.
Right? And it's like, I can understand if it was like a first time, like not the rape or whatever, but like the larceny. Like if that was like a first time offense, I could kind of get it. But this dude's a repeat offender and
Correct.
violent crime offender.
There's no correction here on this person's part.
No.
And the other thing is here's what I can't get past.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a thug for a husband,
Correct.
how is he serving you?
Correct.
How is this marriage an actual union?
Yeah.
If one partner is not contributing equally to the relationship. I mean,
Correct. I agree.
it's kind of like, how does this serve you?
Correct. Oh.
All right.
Some people got weird tastes, or they think they don't deserve better. I don't know. Not for me. Hanson is believed to have begun killing around 1972. His modus operandi was to stalk a woman to learn her habits, and eventually pick her up in his car and force her at gunpoint to his home, where he would then rape her. He may then have taken the woman to a secluded area and hunted her as if she were wild game before shooting and stabbing her.
So you're telling me now he's bringing the victims home.
Correct.
Where was his wife?
That I could never find out after that.
Okay.
So I would hope that she was gone by then. Hopefully, and she didn't know what the fuck this man was doing.
This is disgusting.
Correct. It's like, it reminds me of oh god, what is it? It's like a movie or a book. Like The Most Dangerous Game or whatever. Or I think it's a book, and this guy, he gets all these people to come to this island because he says he'll give them a shit ton of money or whatever. And it's this desert island, and then he releases them into the forest on this island and hunts them. And I think the last surviving person gets all the money or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called the Most Dangerous Game or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
This is his own game.
Correct.
And there are non-willing participants in this game.
Correct. While some of the women Hanson murdered were exotic dancers or prostitutes, many were teenagers.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, he just decided, I'm going to make this easy for myself.
Correct. And he's going to go after people that society has already deemed, just written them off because...
Probably, yes.
Because of
that
their
makes
profession.
Right, they're not going to look hard for them.
No. And nobody's going to miss them.
Right.
I hate that shit. It is believed by authorities that Hanson's first murder victim was 18-year-old Celia Van Zanten. Van Zanten was kidnapped on December 22nd, 1971, and froze to death in the wilderness after escaping her abductor.
Wait, December 22nd?
Yep.
This is Christmas.
Yeah. But yeah, so she froze to death in the wilderness after escaping her abductor. Her body was discovered on December 25th.
4 days later.
Yep. And yeah.
Christmas Day.
Yeah. Or is it 24th? It's Christmas. I don't know anymore.
Oh my God. Not good at math and not good on holidays? It's the 25th.
Edit that out. Or keep it in. I don't care. The abduction occurred 3 days after Hanson committed his assault on the prostitute for which he was imprisoned. While there are some similarities to Hanson's modus operandi and Van Zanten's abduction, there is no conclusive evidence linking him to the attack, and he himself denied involvement. He probably did it.
Well, that's his
MO.
MO.
Yeah.
So,
But there's they couldn't find enough evidence to link it.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes that is a fact.
Correct.
And sometimes they have sufficient evidence, but the DA doesn't pick up.
Correct.
Because they want to use all their resources on a guaranteed win.
Correct. Which, fair on this one. On June 13th, 1983, Hanson offered 17-year-old Cindy Paulson $200 to perform oral sex. When she got into the car, he pulled out a gun and drove her to his home in Muldoon. There, he held her captive and proceeded to rape and torture her. She later told police that after Hanson chained her by the neck to a post in his basement, he took a nap on a nearby couch. When he awoke, he put her into his car and took her to Merrill Airport, where he told her that he intended to take her out to his cabin, a shack in the Kink River area of the Matanuska-Sustina Valley, accessible only by boat or bush plane. Paulson, crouched in the back seat of her car with her wrists cuffed in front of her body, saw a chance to escape when Hanson was busy loading the cockpit of his airplane, a Piper PA-18 Super Cub. While Hanson's back was turned, Paulson crawled out of the back seat, opened the driver's side door, and ran towards nearby 6th Avenue. Paulson later told police that she had left her blue sneakers on the passenger side floor of the sedan's back seat as evidence that she had been in Hanson's car. Hanson panicked and chased her, but Paulson reached 6th Avenue and managed to flag down a passing truck.
So, where the fuck did he get the money to own an airplane? Or the time to learn how to fly an airplane?
That's what I want to know.
I mean, this is what I don't understand about criminal hood rat shit.
How you got time and money?
The money portion. I'm like, I'm literally checking my bank account
Right.
every day.
Like, how much do I have left? I know, like, one of my checks is all rent, basically.
Yes.
And then my other check is all other bills.
Right. This fucking guy has a fucking airplane?
Right? And the time, and just
He's
go.
been in and out of jail.
Right.
Where is he getting the money? I mean, this is horrible what he's done to this child, but I don't understand we say this every time. Where the fuck get the time?
Yes.
And B, the money.
This dude worked as a baker. Bakers don't make money.
No.
Yeah.
So there's some questionable shit right there.
The driver, Robert Yount, alarmed by Polson's disheveled appearance, stopped and picked her up. While he drove her to the Mush Inn, where she jumped out of the truck and ran inside. While she pleaded with the clerk to phone her boyfriend at the Big Timber Motel, Yount continued to work, where he called the police to report the incident. When Anchorage Police Department, or the APD, officers arrived at the Mush Inn, they were told that Polson had taken a cab to the Big Timber Motel. APD officers arrived there and found Polson in room 110, still handcuffed and alone. She was taken to APD headquarters, where she described the perpetrator. Hanson, when questioned by APD officers, denied Polson's accusations, stating that she was trying to cause trouble for him because he would not pay her extortion demands.
That's nice of him to turn shit around on this poor girl.
This excuse became one that Hanson used on multiple occasions. But although he had several prior run-ins with the law, Hanson's meek demeanor and humble occupation as a baker, along with an alibi from his friend John Henning, persuaded police not to consider him a serious suspect.
So he has a history of assault and rape, and the teenagers
described him, left her shoes in his car,
and the cops are like, "It ain't him."
No, he's too meek.
Too meek.
And he works as a baker.
What was it? The werewolf guy was? He was too feminine.
Oh, I think so, something like that.
What? Okay, it's gone. It's
yeah.
gone.
Detective Glenn Floth of the Alaska State Troopers had been part of a team investigating the discovery of several bodies in and around Anchorage, Seward, and the Mantanasuka-Sustina Valley area. I can never pronounce that right. The first of the bodies was found by construction workers near Ekluka Road. The body, dubbed Ekluka Annie by investigators, has never been identified. Later that year, the body of Ioana Mencia was discovered in a gravel pit near Seward. And in 1982, the remains of 23-year-old Sherry Morrow were discovered in a shallow grave near the Kink River. Floth believed all three women had been murdered by the same perpetrator. Floth contacted FBI Special Agent John Douglas and requested help with an offender profile based on the three recovered bodies. Douglas thought the killer would be an experienced hunter with low self-esteem, have a history of being rejected by women, and would feel compelled to keep souvenirs of his murders, such as a victim's jewelry. He also suggested that the assailant might stutter. Using this profile, Floth investigated possible suspects until he reached Hanson once again, who fit the profile and owned a plane.
So, just so people understand, the FBI agent Douglas,
Mm-hmm.
So if it's the same Douglas that I'm thinking of, Agent Douglas, a certain Agent Douglas, was spearheading the concept of profiling serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was becoming the notion of profiling these people was foreign and far-fetched, especially in the 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
But once people start seeing that he's right on the money.
And it works and it's
correct. That's when the FBI starts really investing in the concept of profiling serial killers.
Yeah.
And now law enforcement agencies all around the world will contact the FBI asking for profiles.
Yeah.
So if this is the same guy,
right, that's super cool if it's the same dude.
So just a side bit.
I'm just saying, like, once I learned what, like, a profiler was when I was, like, in high school, that became my dream job. I would love to be a profiler. That would be so cool.
Right. I mean, because they just look at, the blood splatter.
And, like, the bodies and, like...
They didn't even go to the scene of the crimes.
No, I want to know how they do it.
Exactly.
It's magic. Supported by Polson's testimony and Douglas's profile, Floth and the AAPD secured a warrant to search Hanson's plane, vehicles, and home. On October 27, 1983, investigators uncovered jewelry belonging to some of the missing women, as well as an array of firearms in a corner hideaway of Hanson's attic, which included a .223 Ruger Mini 14 semi-automatic rifle. That's a mouthful. I don't know a lot about guns, but...
Well, there's your hunter.
Correct. Also found was an aeronautical chart with 37 little X's marked on it.
Oh, is that where he put the bodies?
Hidden behind Hanson's headboard. Many of these marks match sites where bodies had been found previously.
He literally just told you where the bodies are.
He basically gave you a map.
Exactly. Here you go, Mr. Officer.
No, I don't know what these X's mean.
They're just so rando.
They're just nice scenic places I liked. Stupid. When confronted with the evidence found in his home, Hanson denied it as long as he could, but eventually began to blame the woman and tried to justify his actions.
Oh my fucking God.
Victim blaming, I hate that shit. It's the fucking worst. Eventually confessing to each item of evidence as it was presented to him, he admitted to a spree of attacks against Alaskan women starting in 1971. Hanson's earliest victims were girls or young women, usually between the ages of 16 and 19, and not prostitutes or exotic dancers. Hanson is known to have raped and assaulted over 30 Alaskan women and to have murdered at least 17, ranging in age from 16 to 41. Although based on evidence, law enforcement suspect that Hanson killed at least 21.
Additional or of those?
Of those. So I think they were able to link him to 17, but they suspect that he actually killed 21.
Okay.
The following is a list of Hanson's known victims and several other additional women who have been mentioned as possible victims. Of these 18 women, Hanson is only formally charged with the murders of 4.
Jesus.
Sherry Morrow, Johanna Mensa, Electana Annie, and Paula Golding. He was also charged with the kidnapping and rape of Cindy Paulson.
Oh, so they finally got back around to the teenage girl.
Yeah. His only surviving victim.
Okay.
Cecilia Beth Van Zanten, then 18 years old, was at home with 2 of her 3 older brothers on December 22, 1971. In the late evening, Beth left her house and walked a few blocks to the nearby Bi-Lo supermarket. The Bi-Lo closed at 9, and she left at 8:30. Between 8:45 and 9, a witness spotted Beth go to the Bi-Lo. At around 9, a neighbor claimed to have spotted her on the Northern Lights Boulevard. She never reached the Bi-Lo. Her disappearance was reported 2 days later. And then she was the one that was found on Christmas, froze to death. On December 25th, 1971, her body was discovered at Chukach State Park, close to Anchorage. Her chest had been sliced with a knife, and she had been bound and subjected to sexual assault. She had been dumped, still alive, into a deep ravine before passing away from exposure. According to forensic evidence, she attempted to climb back up the slope but was unable to due to her bindings. Hanson had been accused of killing her because of an X on his aircraft map, but he denied responsibility for her death. I mean, that's almost worse than just flat out killing her.
Right.
You toss this poor 18-year-old
To her death.
to her death. Down
But
a ravine.
her live death.
Yeah. And
Because she's
leave
still
her-
alive.
You leave her there to die.
Right.
Ugh. Yeah. Megan Siobhan Emmerich, then 17, vanished on July 7th, 1973 in Seward, Alaska. She was last spotted leaving a dorm laundry room while attending the boarding school Seward Skills Center. She has not been seen or heard from since. Megan left behind all of her personal items, including her ID. Before contacting the police, her roommate conducted a 3-day search for her. Hanson denied killing her to authorities, but he did admit that he was in Seward on the day that Megan vanished. Due to an X on his aircraft map, he is thought to be responsible. Apparently, Hanson admitted to a former inmate that he transported Megan to a cabin in the Seward region that was only reachable by boat, where he killed and buried her.
So, here again, he is searching for these locations. That means he's putting in a lot of time and energy. I mean, a boat.
Yeah.
Where the fuck is his boat? I mean, do you see? He's got a plane and a boat?
He's got everything, apparently.
Jesus fucking Christ.
On July 5th, 1975, Mary Kathleen Thill, age 22, disappeared from Seward. She was driven into town by a friend who then dropped her off at a local bakery. Between 1:30 and 2 p.m., a different acquaintance saw her by a waterfall on Lower Point Road. She has not been seen or heard from since. Hanson acknowledged being in Sherwood on the day that she vanished, but again denied killing her. An X on his aviation chart in the vicinity of Resurrection Bay increased suspicions about him. Hanson admitted to killing her and discarding her body in Resurrection Bay, according to a former prisoner. So this dude's he's a singing canary while he's in prison.
Right. He's bragging.
Yeah.
That's probably what he's really doing.
Absolutely.
One-upping, bragging.
The remains of Elukta Annie were discovered buried next to her power line in a wooded area 1 mile south of South Elukta Lake Road. On July 21st, 1980, Hanson admitted to stabbing her in the back after she tried to flee from his car. She was either a topless dancer or a prostitute, according to Hanson, who also claimed that she was his first murder victim. Despite his claim that Elukta Annie may have come from Kodiak, Alaska, troopers think she might have come from California originally. Her body had already been largely consumed by wildlife when it was found in a shallow grave.
And that's, that's terrible because, unfortunately, when that happens, the wildlife consumes evidence.
Correct.
So.
Local topless dancer, 24-year-old Joanne Mencina, went out to dinner with Hanson on May 19, 1980, while she was working in Seward. According to Hanson, before Mencina offered him sex in exchange for cash, everything was going smoothly. Hanson refused to pay and refused to release her, so he drove her and her dog to a distant place by the Snow River. He hit her with a .22 caliber revolver before shooting her twice and the dog once. I know, this one made me sad. I was like, not the dog. He brought Mensa's body to a gravel pit nearby and dumped gravel over her body. The dog and Mensa's belongings were thrown into the woods, and the gun was thrown into the Snow River. On July 18, 1980, her severely decomposed body was found after it had been eviscerated by wildlife.
Again, there goes the evidence.
There's a couple of them that were...
Well, not only that, the weather will erode evidence, too.
Correct. On June 28, 1980, Roxanne Eastland, then 24 years old, vanished. She had been residing at the Budget Motel on Spinard Road in Anchorage with her boyfriend. On that day, she was scheduled to meet an unnamed man downtown on 4th Avenue. She has not been seen or heard from since. Although Hanson has admitted to killing her, her body was never discovered. I think for me, those ones are always kind of the hardest.
Because you don't get the bodies back.
You don't get the bodies back, and the family never gets closure.
Right.
Or
no,
like loved ones or whoever.
He didn't put an X on her. Because the question, I guess, that should be asked, did they use the X map and go to those spots to see if there was a body?
They did.
Okay.
And they actually got him... I'll talk about it later, but they talked to him about it, and he showed him a couple of different places on the map, like where the X's were. Like he told them exactly where or whatever. But then there's a other couple places that he just would not talk about. So.
Okay.
At the nightclub that she worked in Anchorage, Lisa Fruccelli met and was subsequently kidnapped by Hanson on September 6, 1980. When the 41-year-old failed to return home following her shift at the club, her 2 younger housemates reported her missing. Her body was discovered on May 9, 1984, buried next to a gravel pit south of the former Kink Arm Bridge.
How many years apart is that? 4 years?
Yeah. Sherry Morrow, a 23-year-old topless dancer, told friends she was meeting a photographer who had promised her $300 for nude images on November 17, 1981. She was never seen again. A shallow grave was discovered by hunters on the banks of the Kink River, which borders Anchorage, on September 12, 1982. Morrow, who was reported missing a year earlier, was identified from the remains. She had received 3 gunshot wounds to the back, and cartridges discovered close to the body revealed that a .223 Ruger Mini 14 hunting rifle had been used to deliver the shots.
Does that sound familiar to anybody else?
Mm-hmm. Although she was found fully clothed, there were no bullet holes in the clothing, suggesting that Sherry had been naked when shot and had been redressed after death before being buried.
I wonder why he took time to dress her.
Yeah, that I don't know.
That does seem odd.
At 11 p.m. on December 2nd, 1981, Andrea Mona Fish Alturi, 24, was last seen boarding a taxi to go to the Boniface Mall in Anchorage. She intended to meet an unnamed male for a photo shoot and to perform exotic dances.
So he's figured out a good niche there.
Oh, absolutely. She had not been seen or heard from since. When authorities searched Hanson's house, several of her possessions, including her fish necklace, were discovered. Hanson claimed that after he met her, he threatened her with a gun and abducted her, blindfolding and handcuffing her. They then took a car to a service road off Palmer Highway. He unbound her there and abused her sexually. He killed her with a .22 Boeing automatic pistol after she retaliated. He then stole her necklace, weighted a duffel bag with gravel, tied it to the dead woman, and threw her off the bridge and into the Kink River. Her body was never found.
It was probably, unfortunately, washed down.
Oh, absolutely. Sue Luna, a 23-year-old exotic dancer, voluntarily agreed to a $300 photo shoot offer for a nightclub patron. On May 26, 1982, she met Hanson at a diner parking lot in Anchorage. The following day, Luna was reported missing. Hanson had abducted and killed her, then buried her near the Kink River. Her body was discovered on April 24, 1984. According to Hanson, he had her flee into the forest while hunting her like an animal while she was stripped naked. Luna had been shot to death. The partial skeletal remains of Robin Peakley, 19, were found on April 25, 1984 in Palmer, close to Horseshoe Lake. It was determined that she had been stabbed and shot. It is unknown if this victim was involved in sex work. In October of 2021, forensic genealogy was used to determine her identity, having only been known as the moniker Horseshoe Harriet before she was identified. Early in the 1980s, Peakley resided in Anchorage and she'd vanished on July 19, 1983.
You know, that's one of the things that, I mean, Alaska is it's, I think, almost half the size of the United States. It's a huge
Something like that. It's close
state,
to that.
but it's very low in population.
Correct.
And it's just kind of baffling that for as low, it's almost as if, does she not have family to report her missing?
Right.
I mean, the one particular, the older lady, she had roommates who were concerned about her. It just seems odd that this young lady didn't seem to have anybody, didn't have a tribe of her people.
Correct. I mean, yeah, she was discovered in 84.
Right.
And her remains weren't identified until 21.
Correct. I mean, I have no doubt if Sierra goes missing, both of her mothers will be banging on doors.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And camping out in front of whichever law enforcement agent they think is the one that needs to investigate her disappearance. There's no doubt in my mind. That's my point here.
Oh, yeah. I know, and it's super sad, too, like, when you have these people that, you know, like you said, like, they have nobody.
Yes.
And that's why they're easy targets.
Correct.
And that's what makes it horrible.
Correct.
Delane Sugar Renee Frey, a 22-year-old former resident of Anchorage, was last seen sometime in March 1983, but was not immediately reported missing. She was abducted and killed by Hanson. She was buried as Jane Doe in an Anchorage cemetery after her body was discovered on a Kink River sandbar by a pilot on August 20th, 1985. It was not until 1989 that she was identified when an Alaskan state trooper recognized her jewelry in a case file photo.
I don't know what to say to that. Maybe he was looking in her missing case. But this has been going on for 5 years.
Going on for a long time.
I mean, he's been killing longer than that, but his consistently killing.
Yep. And then the bodies aren't being discovered for
years later.
Yeah. Paula Golding, 30, was a dancer in Anchorage when, on April 25th, 1983, Hanson offered her money before kidnapping her. He drove her to his aircraft, shackled her, and demanded she exit the aircraft under threat of being shot.
Wait, was the aircraft in mid-flight?
No.
Okay.
So he would put them in his plane and, like, fly out to, like, the wilderness area.
Right, the most isolated place.
Correct.
So there's no chance of escape.
Correct. So he could hunt them.
Yes.
Yes. Once they reached a remote spot, she fought him and attempted to get away, according to Hanson. She fled, and he fired the .223 rifle at her, killing her. On September 2nd, 1983, she was discovered on the Kink River, buried in a shallow grave. She had been wounded in the back, but because her clothing was undamaged, it is possible she had been shot while still naked and then clothed before being buried. One of the other victims was Cindy Polson, 17, who we spoke about earlier. It was her escape that led to him being caught.
Sort of.
Well, yeah.
Not at first.
No, not at first, but...
eventually.
Yeah. On July 10th, 1981, dancer Malia Larson, age 28, was reported missing from Anchorage. On April 24th, 1984, her body was discovered in a parking lot close to the Kink Arm Bridge. Dancer Teresa Watson, 22, was last seen in Anchorage on March 25th, 1983. She informed her roommate that she was meeting a man who would give her $300 in exchange for an hour or two of company. At Scenic Lake, Hanson abducted her and killed her. Hanson was unable to bury her since the earth in the region was still frozen. He abandoned her where she had died. She was discovered on May 17, 1984. 24-year-old Angela Lynn Ferdin was last seen on 4th Avenue in Anchorage sometime in February of 1983. She was not reported missing until May. The owner of a nightclub reported that Ferdin, one of his dancers, had gone missing. Hanson had kidnapped and murdered her. Ferdin's body was found on April 26, 1984, on a small lake near the larger Figure 8 lake. That one's another one that's super sad.
Yeah, even her own boss waited months.
Yeah.
To report.
And the fact that it was her boss that ended up reporting her.
Right.
Like, does she not have, like, friends,
right,
family,
a tribe?
Anybody? Yeah. 20-year-old Tammy Pettinson was a dancer at a nightclub in Anchorage. The last her family heard from her was during a phone call on August 7, 1982, when she claimed to have been offered money to pose for photographs. She was kidnapped and murdered by Hanson. Her body was not found until Hanson confessed and pointed out her body's location on the map. She was found 1.5 miles from Old King Bridge on April 29, 1984. It's a long
Old
list.
King Bridge, isn't that? Wasn't another victim over there?
A couple of them.
Oh, so he's got favorite spots now.
Yes. Once arrested, Hanson was charged with assault, kidnapping, multiple weapon offenses, theft, and insurance fraud. Hanson entered a plea bargain after ballistics tests returned a match between bullets found at the crime scenes and Hanson's rifle. He pled guilty to 4 of the homicides the police had evidence for, Morrow, Mencina, Golding, and Ulicta Annie, and provided details about his other victims in return for serving his sentence in a federal prison along with no publicity in the press. Another condition of the plea bargain was his participation in deciphering the marks on the aviation map and locating his victims' bodies. Hanson confirmed the police theory of how the women were abducted, adding that he would sometimes let a potential victim go if she convinced him that she would not report him to the police. He indicated he began killing in the early 1970s. Hanson showed investigators 17 grave sites in and around South Central Alaska, 12 of which were unknown to investigators. There remained marks on his map that he refused to talk about, including 3 in Resurrection Bay. Authorities suspect 2 of these marks were the graves of Mary Thill and Megan Emmerich.
But did they find the bodies?
Nope.
Okay.
Whom Hanson had denied killing. The remains of 12 of a probable 21 to 37 victims were exhumed by the police and returned to their families. Hanson was sentenced to 461 years in prison without the possibility of parole. He was first imprisoned at the United States Penitentiary Lewisburg in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. In 1988, he was returned to Alaska and briefly incarcerated at Lemon Creek Correctional Center in Juneau. He was also imprisoned at Spring Creek Correctional Center in Seward until May 2014, when he was transported to the Anchorage Correctional Complex for health reasons. Hanson died on August 21, 2014 at the age of 75, due to natural causes related to lingering health conditions.
You know, that's disgusting. And I'll tell you why. He gets to die an old man.
Correct.
Having committed these heinous crimes.
Correct.
Against these unfortunate women.
Who were all very young.
Yes.
Yeah. And then just a little bit of what I was interested. There's a couple films. So Naked Fear in 2007, about a serial killer who hunts naked abducted women in the wilderness of New Mexico, is loosely based on him. In the Frozen Ground, a 2013 film, John Cusack portrayed Hanson opposite of Nicolas Cage as Sergeant Jack Halcombe, who's a character based on Glenn Floth, and Vanessa Hudgens as victim survivor Cindy Paulson. I haven't seen either one of those movies, but
I am a big fan of John Cusack. And I mean, Nicolas Cage is touch and go, but I mean.
Yeah. And then this one, I'm definitely gonna have to like break out my Spotify. But last year, electronic industrial band Skynd, or SKYND, released a song titled and about Robert Hanson.
Okay. Believe it or not, we have done an episode on killers.
Yeah.
Have I not released that?
Don't know.
Shit. I may not have released that yet.
Good job.
Oh my God. I have an episode I could have released a long time ago.
Spoiler alert.
Okay. Okay, well, that is what we have for you tonight. On to business.
Facebook, Where the Dark Corners Are has a Facebook page. So if you like to see some creepy things, share some creepy things, go ahead and send us an invite over to that Facebook page.
And you, me, and Panda are the only admins.
Yeah.
So, and we put rando.
We do. And we don't like flood your feed.
Yes, correct. I don't like that.
No.
So, just maybe 1 or 2 at most a day, if that.
If that.
So, but if you have a serial killer that you would like Sierra to cover,
yes,
send us an email. Be like, let's give Sierra this little handy dandy task.
Yes.
See
Research this one.
Correct. If
I hadn't already.
Right. You're coming up on a year almost, at least.
I think we're actually coming up on my 2nd year.
Okay, well, math is bath.
I'm not the only one that can't talk tonight.
All right. So, anyways, yeah. Okay.
Email.
See us at wherethedarkcorners@gmail.com. Final thoughts?
This dude got away with a lot for a long time.
He fucking did. And that's...
Do better, Alaska.
Yes!
Do better.
You guys were on to him.
Right.
And you know what bothers me? She was able to describe him. Why didn't you put him in a lineup for her to confirm?
Correct.
Because if you did and you ignored what she said...
Correct. Shame on you.
Correct. All right. So until next time, please remember, only the few can find the beauty in the darkness, which is where we hope to meet you, where the dark corners are.